new situation in terms of employing people and keeping them motivated and incented. And so let's move into that topic now. We started that earlier in terms of talking about recognition and reward and incentives. One of the things that people will say is people respond to incentives. So I hear that said a lot. And the other thing I hear is that what you incent is what you get. So the question for me is, to what extent is the motivation and incentive external? That is it money, is it bonuses, versus how much of it is intrinsic, where the recognition and the rewards and the ability to advance your career, to what extent are those things important? So Matt, do you want to respond to that?
Yes, thank you. In our situation, again, in emerging markets, you've got such a huge pressure with educated personnel and human resources. I think our biggest difficulty is to identify the ones that are motivated, honest, and have integrity, because when you get somebody who's got the fire in their eyes and wants the Mercedes next week and the Rolex watch the week after, that's not the banker you want. There's ways to get that money in the bank, but it's all crooked. So it's to identify those credible individuals that are motivated intrinsically, and they're not necessarily the smartest and the brightest and the ones who want to accelerate the fastest. So once you've got that, a very procedural methodology where you have, again, within your human resources policy procedures, a very flexible tool. In other words, you know exactly what your starting salary is, and you know exactly, we always, by the way, recommend, doesn't matter where you're coming in, it's 6 months probation, okay? And you can be just let go on any reason within those 6 months. So they're on their best performance for 6 months. After that, there's a salary pop, and then you get onto the normal salary ladder. But within the salary ladder, there's opportunities for bonuses where a manager, vice president, or president can go ahead and say, this one is super performance and wants to be kept. So
Nathan?
Internal and external both.
Okay, combination. Nathan?
Yeah, the short answer is I would agree it's a total package. But something that I think has come out of our discussion here, obviously the salary and compensation has to be competitive ultimately, or you're going to lose them. That's just the way it is in a competitive environment. But I found it interesting, the 3 years up and out theory. In our bank, that would not work very well for a couple of reasons. One is we have a long history of having long tenured employees. It's very common for us to have employees that have been with the company 25, 30, 40 years. When you have that, you get stalemated, so to speak. If someone isn't leaving, there's not opportunity for someone to be promoted unless you have a tremendous amount of growth. We have enough growth where we have some opportunity, but not enough to keep everybody happy always. And so what we've done to compensate for that is we put an extreme amount of value in the production side. So, and what I mean by that is if you're one of our top producing field officers, we may compensate you very similarly to what we would compensate a manager or a branch manager. We see similar values there. The branch manager brings leadership and people skills. The producer brings revenue. They're out handling a book of business that is very important to the profitability of our bank. And so we don't view them as one's higher than the other. We view them as comparable value to the organization, and we treat them that way. The other thing we do that I think helps our retention is our approach, our team approach. And one of the things we do to solidify that is annually, I pull our entire ag division together off-site for 2 days to do a division strategic planning. And I share that only to say that has been, if I had to say what's our number one key to success, that is it. That those 2 days we spend annually off-site, away from the phone, away from our office, away from our clients, as a team has been the number one key to our success. And it has fostered a culture of everybody, no matter if you're brand new to the organization or you're the 40-year veteran, that 2-day period, everybody's input carries the same weight. And No matter where you rank in tenure or position level, your input is valued, and we try to foster that in that 2-day session. And what we found is it's created a lot of loyalty. It's created a lot of, it's given us on the leadership side of the bank great ideas that we'd have never come up with on our own. And some of those ideas have come from the brand new college graduate, or the somebody that's out handling a customer that they saw this and it brought an idea to the table that we wouldn't have had otherwise. And when that cultivates over a number of years, you really develop a loyalty factor to the company and to the team, and that is just as powerful than a big bonus at year end for production or some of those other things, and that's just our experience.
So the compensation has to be competitive, but then these other things that you do that provide the intrinsic motivation seem to have very high value for you.
Very, very high. I would, quite frankly, I would say some of that value is higher than the compensation.
Chandler?
Yeah, it's quite a challenging task on the aspect of motivation, particularly in addition to the remuneration, the position, the work environment, and the tools for performance. One of the critical challenges I think we face probably most of the opportunities for agriculture field offices are in the rural areas, the regional areas. Some of them are, when we are posted into a location, they are moving far away, about 100 miles, 50 miles, 150 miles away from their home location. So then weekends they have to come to their home locations. If they are married, they have to come back to their families. So that's a critical challenge. Remuneration is a key factor, position is a key factor, career path is a key factor, work environment is a key factor, and the tools for performance is another key factor for these people to get motivated. But this is an absolutely critical challenge where we need to really post some of the people to locations far away from their home town, their home location. And that's where we need to come up with various incentives and motivational packages to make sure that our bank provides most of the staff, including our managers in rural areas, staff accommodation and various incentives in the accommodation itself for them to be engaged. We would also consider most of our field officers not to come after 5 days for weekends to Colombo or to their respective homes, because if they remain during the next 2 days also, they could be more productive, and because field work happens during the weekends as well. So we want to really make sure that most of our field officers, agriculture graduates, posted in the region and the rural area branches, as much as possible selected from the areas that they come from. That's, of course, a critically challenging issue that we have been managing somewhat, but what we have done is, what we have really created a conducive environment for respective field officers to kind of adopt that particular location as his second home, and create that kind of opportunity. And some of them have really moved far away from those places and adopt those locations as their second home, and really sometimes even settle down in those places. And we know some of the managers who have taken up positions far away from their hometowns have moved away from that and settled down in those places. So I think we create that kind of that is one of the key factors of motivation for these field officers. And also the fact that time to time, really bringing them and exposing them to very new initiatives, new ideas, and opportunity to collaborate. One of the things what we have seen our field officers are much more than other co-banking staff, are become more dynamic leaders for the very fact that they are exposed to a number of external stakeholders. And that itself is a major motivation, because they become really grassroots level as well as field level leaders, and that has really given them a significant position in their respective those areas.
Good, good. Miguel, what about motivation and incentive and compensation in Mexico?
My answer may sound weird, but we want happy people to work in Finterra. No, actually, it's a matter of professional, familiar, and own, let's say, the own perception of our employees. We want them to have the chance of feeling that Finterra is caring of them. We don't provide with don't pay anything else but the salaries. But for example, we want to have these young people doing something different at evenings, no? For example, so we encourage them to go to yoga classes or to go to dancing or to go to the bowling or whatever. So they may feel themselves that they are working for something, not only to make money, no?
Yeah.
We want, as we have a lot of people traveling always, we want them, and we don't care about allowing them probably half a day or so in the week, so they can go with their families and spend some time with their families. And we try to have them equilibrated in these aspects. No, we push them very strong for achieving the goals to get to the target, but we want them to be, let's say, in a holistic approach, being considered. No? We have very clear channels of communications within the organization. So if anyone has something to complain about, they may find whom to talk. You know, all this. They are not a part of the business. They are a part of the organization. No? So we want them to feel part of this effort to make this business. No. And so they can bring their ideas, they can bring their suggestions, they can complain. The Director General is always open to whomever wants to have something to say. And in some particular cases, for example, we have supported them for paying, for example, one of his children's school fees or something like that, when they have a problem or something. So we back them up as far as we can. No? And also, we go beyond what the laws, the labor laws in Mexico request the companies to give. So we go into a life insurance ×2, for example, comparing with the competition, and we have an extra healthcare insurance. So we try them to feel safe in their work, no. And also, as Nathan said, we have every year, but it's a 5 days get together, and we bring them in these sessions, and we make a lot of team building. We work let's say, from the humanistic point of view in them, you know, and trying to generate this loyalty, you know, and it's actually, it may sound weird, but we want them happy. We want them not to be worried for what may happen. We want them to dedicate all what they can give us to the company.
Is a happy employee a productive employee? Is there a direct correlation there? Or can you be happy and unproductive?
I think they don't compete. No? Well, at least to me, I am not the human resources manager, but I am almost the human resources manager because we are too little, well, not too many people in there, so we have to achieve different hats, no? And we have to take different functions. And for me, from my very personal point of view, I think a person that can feel well in the place he's working, he will provide us with much more effort. He will not be reluctant to work more and to go in the correct direction.
Matt, you raised an interesting point that I sort of have seen in some places, especially in Africa, and that has to do with the integrity of the loan officer. You've got to be sure you've got a loan officer who is honest, because there's a temptation to take tips, is how I've heard it described. So could you speak to that a little bit more at the same time you're talking about the balance between extrinsic and intrinsic motivation?
Certainly. Okay, it's part and parcel of this job rotation, job enrichment concept. Just to clarify, the 3 years up or out is out of your current position, not out of the institution. But if you can't be promoted to some other job and get this enrichment and growth and be a real asset, then it's better you go out and do something else. But it's within the job rotation aspect and the team. So the credit officer team that is built, and then the credit committee team that's built, and then the audit functions, that ensures that there's always somebody looking at the portfolio and different people interfacing with different clients. So as part of the, again, job portfolio function, what we do is we'll have a team of credit officers assign that portfolio for 1 year and then rotate it to another group of officers, same portfolio, still responsible for the customers, the same growth forecasts, but just so that you don't have these human relationships developing that facilitate these kinds of problems. So it's part and parcel of that. And I think following on this idea of happiness, in any institution, if everybody knows they're benchmarked on a standard basis, that there's complete transparency, and our preference is always to put in place a 360-degree valuation. It's not always just top down, top down, top down, because then you basically are building a dictatorship, and that you can't have happiness. So it's a 360-degree valuation that is put into place. And the other thing that the Human Resources Department has to be so careful of, it's not just male-female mix. It's racial mix, and it is also tribal mix. It's ethnic background mix, because if you're not careful, you let this machine run for a few years, and then all of a sudden everybody comes from that part of the country.
Yeah. So you have some unique issues when you're in.
It has to be, when you set the machine up and you turn the key on, that human resources function, the training, the transparency, the job rotation, enrichment, and selection, absolutely key. And you have to function only on meritocracy. It's got to be a meritocracy.
Okay, now you started the discussion on how you monitor performance, and you talked about the performance review has to be 360. Miguel, how about in Mexico? How do you monitor performance, and do you do regular performance reviews? If so, how often do you do them? How do you do it?
We used to have a one-person evaluation system. it was on me, and it was very tough to evaluate everyone. It was like, I don't want to do that anymore. No, we're moving into a 360 degrees approach of the evaluation. No? First of all, we go to profitability. So each relationship manager and each office must get their target. So we fix a profitability target, first of all, a number of clients attraction, a number of client retention. So we have some standards. No? And at the end of the year, we evaluate. Well, mostly there are 4 things. One is the profitability of the branch and the employee, the number of clients they retain, the number of clients they bring to the company, and the development of his people. No? How the people on that particular team did develop in the particular year. Now we're moving into this 360 degrees evaluation. So the partner, the colleague, the boss, and the supervised by himself will give them a grade, but we always take care of the profitability is the key factor. No? If they achieve the goal, we can go to the others. No?
Okay.
If they don't achieve the goal, it's just like you're freezed. No? You just stay there, and we will look after what's going on with you.
So results are key in your organization. So if you don't get the results, not much else matters then.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Chandler?
I think what is significant on the point you raised, now this particular the job in the agriculture field officer, it has to be very well respected position, because you deal with the clients of a different category, specialized, as well as multiple stakeholders. Now, we kind of put so much of effort to make sure that our field officers are very well respected individuals. In fact, all our field officers are called by the respective clients, our beloved gentleman from the bank. Now, if we were to try to take commissions, that respect is lost. So we adequately remunerate them and give all the necessary tools required for them to perform their jobs well, so that they will not demean themselves going to that, because our role not only lending, but advising them. So you can't advise them if you are trying to take some kind of commission.
Yeah.
So that's sort of, you immediately lose your respect as in the community. Right. So I think that's where we put a lot of effort towards that, make sure that they are well compensated, well remunerated, and also the work environment is there and the tools are there, so that they will not resort to that. And so then there will be a kind of their performance is also take into consideration that how they perform in this level. and the respect that they earn not only from the clients but the community leaders, opinion leaders, and all that comes into play, particularly in our rural and regional level branches. So that's where I think very important. In particularly this area, not only you need a happy employee, but you need a very passionate employee. Happiness and passion is very critical to deliver financial service to this sector.
So how often do you do a performance review on an employee?
I think we do every quarterly. Performance to be done by from a regional and a head office level, but at a branch level, on a monthly basis, manager engage with the respective field.
So in terms of the business results, you do that more often than you do the individual performance review.
Yeah.
You're always monitoring the business results. Nathan, what do you do?
Yeah, I would say from an HR more formal process, we look at three things. One is on the spot, what we call on the spot coaching. That goes on every day, all the time, and not just from the supervisor to the employee. It might be a coworker that sees something that they know, hey, this isn't First Dakota standards. Hey, coach it up, talk about it, and correct it. Then on the supervisor level, we ask our supervisors to meet monthly probably is preferred, but at a minimum quarterly, and that'll depend on the employee. If you have a long time experienced employee, maybe quarterly is enough. The younger, less experienced employees, monthly is maybe more appropriate, but we call them coaching sessions where it's more formal. You schedule it on the calendar, you carve out an hour of time to talk about how's it going and what are we doing. And then annually, we have our formal annual review process where compensation's reviewed, and we handle more of the formal HR process. The other thing to this 360 approach, when we do that annual sit-down appraisal of the employee, we also carve specific time out in that process to do an appraisal back of the supervisor. Is there anything I can do better to help you be successful? Is there anything that the organization is lacking to help you be successful? So we try to make that a two-way discussion, not just, okay, I'm evaluating you and sit back and listen. It's a conversation.
Good. We're going to move to questions and answers, questions from the field in just a minute, but I have one last question about retention. And is there anything particular that you do to ensure greater retention of your employees? Nathan, I'll start with you.
I guess I'll go back to that strategic planning and that team approach. I think that helps our retention significantly. The other thing we do that has really helped our retention, and it gets back to the passion and happiness thing that has kind of been a common theme here. We expect our employees to be leaders in the industry. We expect them to be involved in ag organizations and commodity groups, and as they get engaged and do that, it builds a sense of pride in your logo, in your company, and in themselves, and that builds tenure and loyalty. We find that is a tremendous retention tool for us.
Chenwa?
Yeah, I think the organization itself, the image of the organization itself is key for employees to, particularly this sector, feel proud about working for this institution, which is really working toward this society upliftment. So that is one of the key things, as well as above average market remuneration and facilities for them is one thing which we always make sure that it's available to them.
So fair compensation, and then some of these other things that really, the intrinsic part of it. Miguel?
Yeah, I think so. Compensation is the main thing. We have this bonus scheme also that we pay them annually. Well, it depends on the profitability. If they make the income we set, then we can pay them a yearly bonus. It's up to be probably half a year of a salary.
Oh, that's a lot.
We can go that way, that much, no? So they like to always, they're trying to get these premiums, no? Or this price. But after that, all this list of things that we are trying to make them participate in the decisions, being part of the community, also not only work for Finterra, but also go to the forums and speak, loudly, give them their ideas, being in touch with them. So make them feel that they are important for us, and they are important also for them. So we want to have all this holistic approach on them, but the first step is pay them well.
Okay. Matt, what's your experience?
Actually, to be a little bit counter, recommendation is don't keep the people around forever. Prepare the organization in such a way that you know it's going to change, and get the systems, process, procedure, and methodology in place to facilitate sustaining the institution while all these other functions are changing, the markets are changing, the human resources is changing, et cetera. So it comes down to focus then on the institutional infrastructure and that human resources function. You can't pay enough. I mean, Donald Trump never seems to have enough, right? So you're looking for people that are interested in the industry, but then there's the social aspect. Even when you're spinning people out of your organization, you are contributing somebody to the private sector. You're getting a chief financial officer out there. You're getting a chief accountant out there. You're getting somebody that's networked and will have preferential feelings for your institution. So as long as these people are let go or allowed to grow on their own way but maintain links back, you're growing your market share. And you want to evolve. You really have to evolve, and it's such a fast-moving market that the guy you hired last week may not be the guy you need next week. So
What you said is very interesting. You say, if I understand you correctly, you're saying you need to structure the organization with the expectation that there's going to be turnover. So it doesn't matter. You really need to have an organization that's flexible enough to be able to put people in the spots that are needed quickly and have them function.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And redundancy and backups. Yeah.
All right, it's time for questions. So I see one hand up in the back there. So.